Welcome back to The Vault by Valeō Pilates, where we discuss everything wellness, growth, and excellence related. We have one rule, and that is no gatekeeping. With that being said, my name is Maya, and we have Tanya Domize here with us today.
Hello, Maya. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. You
Of
are a
course.
busy woman, so I'm happy that I got you on here. For those of us who don't know Tanya, she is a professor, mother, and overall baddie. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to talk about a few things because honestly, the second we started talking over at that reception desk, I'm like, this is the coolest girl on earth. She really does it all, and you've lived multiple lives. So I would love to hear more about your experience being a professor.
You know what? Let's start from the inception of it all. You know, one thing I tell everyone, including my students, is your past does not dictate your future, right? For me, it was a interesting path. So, in high school, I went to a Catholic school, and at 17, I found myself with a little one in the oven. And at that time, they were like, oh, no, girl. You can't stay here. So I actually went on and I graduated from an alternative school.
Wait, they kick you out for being pregnant? Is
Well,
that a thing?
back in like the early 2000s, it was one of those things where it was like, there was a few of us,
Oh my
but it
goodness.
wasn't something that they made easy. So not necessarily do they tell you like, you have to leave, but it's like you're voluntold. And then, at the end of the day, it's like this shame that you feel. But, fast forward, 20 plus years later, it was probably the best thing that I've ever done. So yeah, I graduated from an alternative school. And one of the things I used to do is I used to like sing in the choir, couldn't do that for a while, and really had to find myself. And I found myself through education and just a love for education. From there, I pathwayed to going to college and doing like a 1-year general arts and science option because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. And then I went to York U, where I did an undergrad in political science and French. Went to Centennial, became a paralegal. Went back to York to do like a master's certification in adult training and development, which led me to my pathway as a professor.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
it was one of those underdog situations where I had to really commit to myself. And through that journey, was a lot of like pain, on the process or in the process of going to school and things like that. I had a partner, and things don't always work out, especially when you start dating at like 14, 15 years old. But that partner became, even though we would literally argue like cats and dogs and fight like cousins, he was part of my family. And unfortunately, at 22 years old. I was 22, he was 23, and our daughter was around 4. If I have my math correct, right? He fell ill and he passed away. And at that time, I did have another partner, but like I said, he was part of my family, this young man. And it was absolutely traumatizing. It's still traumatizing, over 15 years later. And yeah, it was literally a month after I already had my son. So I feel like I probably went through post-traumatic stress.
Of course.
But I didn't recognize it. And then, that like, 16, 17 years ago, this type of language wasn't something that we used a lot of the times.
It was just keep it pushing.
It was keep it pushing, right? Especially when you come from a minority background.
Yeah.
It's like, girl, you got 5 minutes to cry and you got to suck them tears up and raise these kids.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that my love for education just really came from a lot of the hardship. And for me, like, it was a way out.
Do you feel that education was your coping mechanism? Because I feel like for a lot of alpha, high functioning women, they need a vice. And if it's not something, if it's not drinking, if it's not smoking, it can be a positive thing. But sometimes you dive head onto something like education, and that is a way to avoid feeling the really deep, uncomfortable things because it's a distraction. I can't think about this. I have 500 things to do with school, or I'm working towards that light at the end of the tunnel. And that light is what keeps me distracted from the darkness all around.
Yeah, for sure. It was something where I actually created, like in my laundry room, this little office space, and I remember painting it red and putting my computer in there, and I would sit there for hours and I just got away from everyone. I was away from my partner, away from my kids, and I just dove into education. And it was my safe space. And, being pregnant at 17, a lot of people count you out. It's like, well, what are you going to do now? Are you ever going to be able to financially support yourself? I have an older mom as well. And she always said to me, like, this is your way out. Like, she's from Jamaica, did not have a lot of the opportunities that I was afforded. And one of the things I said to myself was, damn, I got pregnant at 17. I have to make this woman proud. So I just really dove into it and just continued and really didn't take a break. And I remember one of the biggest moments for me was crossing the high school stage with my daughter on my hip. That really spoke volumes and allowed me to find my love for education, the law, and now teaching.
Do you feel like you go out in public and maybe you run into somebody that you went to high school with, somebody that back then may have counted you out and said, oh, Tanya got pregnant, so we're never going to see her face again.
Right.
Do you feel like you see these people out and about and they maybe look at you and they're like, Tanya, you're a professor now?
Yeah, of course. And I'm a Scarborough kid, right? Born and raised, work in Scarborough. So for sure, people are always like, wow, girl, like I never expected that from you. Plus I was a little bit of a hothead. So with just, this path and this journey and being exposed to education, working in the courts, I really found myself. And I was able to kill it when it came to education, kill it when it came to, I worked for the Attorney General for a while. I learned a lot and was able to transition that into the role that I'm in now. And, for me, I look at it as my job now is to turn around and help those people, even if you did count me out. It's interesting because some of those same people I actually have in my classes or I have their children in my classes. And sometimes, success is your best revenge. And then also giving a helping hand because I'm not a hater. So, giving that helping hand and just showing people like, if I can do it, you can definitely do it.
Do you feel like knowing what you know now, would you say something to your younger self to get you through that darkest night? Being in the position that you're in, what would you say to your younger self?
I think what I would say to my younger self is give yourself grace. I feel like I was always in the rat race, so I was unable to kind of appreciate sometimes even my my children's kind of highlights, because I was always just doing something. So I would say to myself, slow down, give yourself grace, live in the moment, because as much as we are trying to work for the future, we have to enjoy the present moments that we're in.
I think that's something that I can 100% relate to because even through my own experience. So we really connected on this. I went to law school. I'm a practicing lawyer. And I know that the whole time before that, it was always just, okay, I can't enjoy this moment because after I graduate from my undergrad, I'm doing my master's. And after my master's, I'm going to go to law school. And after law school, I'm going to do my bar exam. And then after my bar, I'm going to work at the top firm in Toronto.
Right.
And it was always this, the next step. And the whole time I didn't allow myself to actually enjoy, okay, give yourself a second.
Yeah.
You're accomplishing little milestones. You're a step closer, a foot closer. And I think that was something that only until recently I learned. I think it was when I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, where did my 20s go? My mom always used to tell me, enjoy, smell the roses.
Yes.
My dad is a huge proponent in YOLO, you only live once.
Yep.
He's wholeheartedly the type of person that recognizes that you're here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
My parents definitely conditioned me not to be attached to anything material, but to be attached to moments and fall in love with life.
Yep.
And I think that's something that when I was edging on 30, I'm in my final years of my 20s, that was when it really hit me with where did my 20s go?
Right.
I spent all these years looking forward or not appreciating the vehicle, the person, the body that it took me to get here. Even little things. I'm sure that maybe you can even relate to this of you looking in the mirror and being hard on yourself and saying, oh gosh, I look bad in this picture, delete, or I don't want to take pictures. I look back now and I don't have any pictures of me that exist between the ages of, honest to God, 21 to 28. And I think that's really sad that my daughter will never know who I was during those years. And that for many people, I may only exist in a memory.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that Ooh, that's a big one.
You know, I actually want to say one of my really good girlfriends, one of her best friends died. And one beautiful thing that I think that she does is that she always has pictures of her to post on Instagram, or even for little things like I miss you today. And it's always a new picture. It's always a new Snapchat memory, or always a new this, always a new that. And I realize I'm like, I don't think that I have pictures of myself to exist in many people's phones or Snapchats or whatever the case may be. And I think that's when I started realizing that we have to capture everything, live in the moment, capture things, let people have something to hold on to, because maybe you'll just be a memory if you don't take the time to allow yourself to be open to giving yourself grace and being present.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like this workhorse mentality.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that you said were these small milestones, but they're actually huge leaps.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, not many people have done the things that you've done in regards to going to school, you know, going to get your master's, going to law school, and like doing these things before turning 30 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So just being able to say, you know, Maya or Tanya, like, girl, you did good today.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, we need to go out and have that dinner with our girlfriends and take these selfies, you know, and in being from Scarborough, I've lost so many people, whether it's like gun violence or, you know, being sick. And, you know, just the other day, we lost a really amazing dancer, Latoya Webley. And, you know, she wasn't even 40 years old, or she just turned 40 actually. And she has a little one that's around 3 or 4. And that really taught me to live in the moment and tell people that you love them, and just be unapologetically you. And one of the things that I love is that, you know, there's so many videos and pictures of her, you know, dancing on stage with Drake to Mary J, and all of these beautiful things, jumping out of planes and just living her best life, even in the short, you know, 40 years that she was given. And as I go through these type of things, it's really an eye opener for me, because, you know, death does not discriminate, and it can come at any time. And I think that we have to also remember to give back to our community, like what you do on a regular basis, right? And not just building a legacy for ourselves, but building a legacy for our children, our community. Because when I'm no longer here, I don't want people to be like, you know, she had so much money. They don't really say that at your funeral, right? They speak about how you've made them feel, the things that you've done for people, the legacy that you've left behind. So yeah, like it really shows me when it comes to just being a workhorse to slow down, live in the moment, take those pictures, because we're not always going to be this fine. I felt like I kind of missed out on my 20s as well, because it was always like kids, you know, school, husband, everything, work, you know, and we have to give ourselves grace and live in the moment.
100%. I think what every woman or every person goes through is that epiphany of, oh my goodness, I'm not promised tomorrow. I think that for a lot of us, especially with a workhorse mentality, it's, I'm going to wake up in the morning. You cannot question the way the universe works. You may not wake up tomorrow.
Right.
When we lay our heads to bed at night, even if you have good health, even if you have good fortune, whatever the case may be, you never know if into the night your soul is going to go, and that's it for you. And I think this assumption of having tomorrow is the part that really screws a lot of us into repeating this workhorse and this high functioning lifestyle. But when you have that epiphany of, oh my goodness, I could drive through an intersection right now and God forbid something traumatic could happen, I think that is when real life truly begins. Because then you sincerely start appreciating moments like this, moments with your loved ones, moments with your children, and you're able to scale it back and say, wait a minute, I'm getting this degree, but this degree is going to go on my gravestone. Is that what I really, are we just going to stack our diplomas on top of our little casket? That's not how it works. We don't take anything with us. And I really like what you said about death does not discriminate. Death is definitely sneaky, comes in the middle of the night. And I think that it's just wrong to assume that we're untouchable.
Right. Exactly. None of us are untouchable. And I think it's imperative, right, to build a solid team around you that remind you sometimes to slow down, right? They remind you to slow down, whether it's your partner, your siblings, your friends, your parents. It's more important to have relationships than, like you said, have anything that's materialistic.
I think I used to, I'm not sure if you felt this, but I used to feel a lot of resentment when somebody would tell me, slow down, take it easy, smell the roses. I used to just get mad because I would say, why are you trying to slow down my momentum? Or I have a goal and I want more. And it was always this very angry, if not negative response, because I almost felt like if you're not with me on this, you're against me.
Yeah.
But when I look back on it, it's really these people who are more learned, aged, experienced in different ways than we are, saying, hey, honey, I have been in your shoes before. Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, for sure. Because all of those things don't matter. You know, I remember going to work and feeling like, oh, I have to be here for this trial. I have to support this person, you know, that's going through this trial, and missing out on my kids' field trips, you know? And as I look back, unfortunately, someone else could have stepped in and someone else could have done that. And I felt like that many times, like, you know, if you're not going as hard as I am, or if you're telling me to slow down, you're a hater, you know? Meanwhile, you probably just have healthy mental health because you're not doing too much and you're able to live in the moment. So yeah, I definitely believe that the older that you get, you realize that as important as, you know, degrees are and all of these amazing accolades are, it's really about how you make yourself feel and how you make those around you feel. Because if you're not good within yourself, you can't be good for other people.
I think one thing that I took away from my 20s, especially when it came to being high functioning and accomplishing certain things, is if you die on a Friday, your desk is cleared by Saturday, your job is replaced by the Monday.
Sure.
And I think that that's the hardest thing to accept, but the most important thing to take away from being in this working world is that nobody is irreplaceable. It doesn't matter how amazing you are, how fantastic you are replaceable. And so to break your back and ruin relationships and really deprive your life of the true things that matter, love, emotion, care, kindness, compassion, morality, depriving yourself of those things is never going to do anything for you in a workspace.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was one of the reasons why Pilates and, you know, Valeō was so important to me. Because it was like I was looking at all these different studios, and then I came here, smelt it, looked at it, it was amazing, and then met you. And I was like, oh no, this is meant to be. And it showed me like you need to find that balance. So it doesn't matter how crazy your day is, I'm still here every day for 1 hour. And as, you know, I'm getting the instructions and, you know, going through the movements, I'm able to just kind of close my eyes, put my phone away, and just disconnect from the world and allow it to be something for me to become healthy, not just physically, but mentally.
It's meditative. It's putting yourself in a space away from the madness, somewhere that feels good, is healthy, is warm. I think that's so important because I also found Pilates in a point of my life where I needed that escapism.
Right.
And I found Pilates while I was in law school, while I was prepping for the bar exams, this was like, I've been practicing Pilates for years and years, but I know for me, when I moved away, 4 hours away, the first thing I did was I found a Pilates studio and I absolutely fell in love with the practice. I remember it became just ritualistic. Every day I was in and out, in and out. My day didn't begin until I had that routine, the coffee, the Pilates, and then I'm off to the races for 10 hours to study and do whatever it is in between. But I know for me that routine is the secret to a fruitful life. I think that there's a word, what is it called? Hedonism. Yeah. It's this idea of escaping and traveling and wanting to live this nomadic fast life. I used to think that was something aspirational, but I realized that true living is creating routine, finding beauty in the everyday. Maybe it is getting your coffee from the coffee shop down the road and showing up to Pilates and then going home and taking a quick shower and then getting back on your computer and then at night making dinner and it's a salad and you feel good. That is a beautiful life.
For sure.
If you stop to see it.
Yeah. And that dedication, you know, it transcends and it gets into discipline. When it comes to your day-to-day life, whether it's eating healthy, you know, taking that moment to pray or meditate, taking that moment to send that text message to your loved one. It just allows you to be in a space where, you know, like self-care is the best care. Right. And it's so interesting because even walking in here today, I felt heavy. And it's like, as soon as you come in here, you sit down, you engage with people and the energy is just amazing. You know, it allows me to check myself and say, girl, it's never that bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, there are days where I come in here and I'm just so grateful for all the women that I get to meet. And it's not even just women like you in and out of the door, but it's women on the internet, women who are
Yeah.
connecting, women who see what Valeō is and say, I want a part of that, or I really love what you're doing. This feels different. There's something different here. And I think I've always, I could easily say, oh, thanks, that's great. But I always want to know, what is it that makes it different? Because I know what makes Valeō or even just routine beautiful, and that is just warmth, kindness, genuine conversations, connection. And I think that people who think that a wellness routine is just getting a workout done, it's so much more than that.
Yeah, it's so much more than that, and it's allowing us to be a collective and become one. You feel like it's a family here.
Collective, that's
a collective.
edgy. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, girl.
And in Jamaica we say we're out of many one people. Like, that's our slogan, and that's how I feel here. And it's so uplifting because, we all get to speak to each other, whether it's the instructors, yourself, other like guests that come, and we learn so much about each other. And I think that allows us to grow, and it also allows us to be equally yoked, right? So when you're around the equally yoked, you can do greatness.
Community. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tanya.
For sure.
I feel enlightened myself. I feel a lot less heavy. And honestly, that's how I feel every time I talk to you. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully we'll see you soon.
For sure.